7 days to marry or lose everything. The billionaire forces his maid into a contract. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. The rain taps against the tall windows of a glass tower that rises over the city like a silent judge. Inside, the lights are still on even though it is long past midnight. On the top floor, a man stands alone in a private conference room, his jacket draped over the back of a chair, his tie loosened, his jaw tight with restraint. His name is Alexander Wright. A billionaire, a man who built an empire with discipline, numbers, and control. He is not used to ultimatums. The phone on the polished table vibrates once. Then again. Alexander exhales slowly before answering. On the other end, the voice is calm, practiced, and merciless. The deal will not move forward without a wife. 7 days? That is the condition. No marriage, no signature. No signature, and everything Alexander has worked for over the past 10 years collapses overnight. 7 days. He does not argue. He does not shout. He only listens as the call ends, leaving the room unbearably quiet. Alexander turns toward the city lights, his reflection staring back at him in the glass. He knows this is not about love. It never was. It is about appearances, legacy, and trust in rooms where power decides everything. Behind him, the door opens softly. A young woman steps inside, careful not to make noise. She wears a simple uniform, sleeves rolled slightly as she carries a small cart with cleaning supplies. Her eyes stay down, trained by habit and necessity. Her name is Elena. She is the maid assigned to this floor. She pauses when she realizes someone is still there. "I am sorry, sir," she says quietly. "I thought the room was empty." Alexander does not turn around at first. His mind is racing, calculating outcomes, losses, impossible timelines. Then he hears her voice again, steady but nervous, and something in him shifts. "Leave it," he says. "You can finish later." Elena nods and begins to turn away, relief, mixed with confusion. "Wait," Alexander says. She stops. He turns now, finally looking at her. Really looking. The uniform, the tired eyes. The way she keeps her hands folded as if trying to take up as little space as possible. An idea forms. Cold, uncomfortable. Necessary. "Elena," he says, reading her name from the small tag on her chest. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years, sir," she answers. "Almost 4. And you need this job." It is not a question. She hesitates, then nods. "Yes, sir." Alexander walks toward the table, picks up a folder and holds it loosely in his hand. His voice is calm, but every word carries weight. "I am going to ask you something," he says. "You are allowed to say no. But if you do, nothing changes for me. And everything changes for you." Elena's heart begins to pound. He opens the folder and slides a single document across the table. "I need to get married," Alexander says. "In 7 days." Her breath catches. This would be a legal marriage. Temporary. A contract. You would be compensated well. Enough to never worry about money again. Elena stares at the paper, the words blurring together. "You would play the role of my wife. Public events only. No emotions. No expectations." When the deal is signed, the marriage ends. She looks up at him, disbelief and fear colliding in her eyes. "Sir," she whispers, "I am just a maid." Alexander does not deny it. That, he says quietly, is exactly why this will work. The clock on the wall ticks forward 1 second at a time. 7 days have just begun. The room feels colder after the words leave Alexander's mouth. Elena does not move. For a moment, she is not sure if she is supposed to speak or leave. The city hums far below, unaware that her life has just tilted off its axis. A marriage, she repeats quietly, as if saying it softly might make it less real. "You want me to marry you?" Alexander nods once. No emotion, no apology. "A legal marriage," he says, "temporary. 7 days from now, the ceremony happens. 30 days after the deal closes, it ends." Elena looks down at the document again. Her fingers tremble as she touches the edge of the paper. She does not read the numbers yet. She does not dare. "Sir," she says, her voice tight, "I do not understand why you would ask me." Alexander studies her the way he studies markets, risks, and leverage. Carefully, precisely, "Because you are invisible," he answers. "You do your job well. You do not seek attention. You do not talk to the press. You do not have connections that could complicate this." The words sting, even though they are spoken without cruelty. And because he adds, "You have nothing to gain from humiliating me later," Elena swallows. She wants to tell him he is wrong, that she is not invisible, that she is a person. But the truth is heavier than her pride. She needs this job. More than that, she needs the money. Her mind flashes to a small apartment across town. Peeling paint, a kitchen light that flickers when it rains, medical bills stacked neatly in a drawer because chaos feels worse. A phone call she has been avoiding all week from the hospital billing office. Alexander watches the calculation happen behind her eyes. "You would be compensated," he says, breaking the silence. $1 million. Paid in full once the marriage is complete. Her breath catches. $1 million. It is more money than she has ever imagined holding, let alone earning. Enough to erase debt, enough to buy time, enough to breathe again. And during the marriage, he continues, "Your role would be limited. Public appearances, dinners, a few events. No physical expectations, no emotional obligations." Elena looks up sharply at that. "No expectations?" she asks. "This is not a romance," Alexander says flatly. "This is a solution." The word solution lands like a verdict. She steps back, shaking her head. "I cannot do this," she says, even as her heart betrays her with doubt. "I clean floors. I do not belong in your world." "You belong exactly where I need you to be," Alexander replies. "And you can walk away right now if you choose." He gestures toward the door. The offer hangs in the air, heavy and unfair. Elena takes one step toward the exit, then another. Her hand reaches the handle. She closes her eyes. The sound of her mother coughing in the night echoes in her memory. The way the pharmacist avoided her eyes last time. The look on her landlord's face when she asked for more time. She turns back. She turns back. "If I agree," she says slowly, "what happens to my job? You will no longer be staff," Alexander answers. "You will be my wife. On paper. And after? You leave with the compensation," he says. "No strings." She studies his face, searching for something human. Regret. Doubt. Anything. She finds none. "May I ask one thing?" she says. "Yes." "Why does the deal require this?" she asks. "Why does a man like you need a wife to be trusted?" For the first time, Alexander hesitates. "Because the board believes stability comes from tradition," he says quietly. "And tradition demands a wife." Elena exhales. Slowly. She walks back to the table and sits down. The chair feels too large, too expensive. Like everything else in this room. "I want my own lawyer," she says. "I want everything written clearly. And I want one condition." Alexander raises an eyebrow. "Which is no matter how this ends," Elena says, her voice steady, "now you will never say you saved me." He considers this. Then he nods. "That is acceptable." The clock on the wall ticks forward. Elena picks up the pen, her hand no longer shaking. She has not fallen in love. She has not been rescued. She has made a decision. And the price will come later. The lawyer arrives the next morning. Not Alexander's lawyer. Elena's. The man is older, careful with his words, his glasses resting low on his nose as he flips through the thick stack of papers laid out across the long dining table in the penthouse. Sunlight pours in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, too bright for a conversation like this. Elena sits straight, her hands folded in her lap, wearing clothes borrowed from a guest closet that still do not feel like hers. Alexander stands near the window, arms crossed, watching the city instead of the room. "This is a marriage contract," the lawyer says slowly. "Not a prenuptial agreement. Not a non-disclosure alone. A full legal marriage with predefined terms." He looks at Elena. "You understand that once you sign this, you will be married under the law?" Elena nods. "I understand. And you understand that public perception will treat this as real?" Yes. The lawyer turns a page. There are boundaries listed here, he continues. No requirement of intimacy. Separate bedrooms. No shared medical decisions. No claim to assets beyond the compensation stated. He pauses. This is unusual, but not illegal. Alexander finally speaks. I want every line to be clear. The lawyer glances at him. Clear cuts both ways, Mr. Wright. He continues reading aloud. Clause 7. The marriage will terminate 30 days after the commercial agreement is finalized. No extensions unless mutually agreed upon in writing. Elena's fingers tighten slightly. Clause 9. Public appearances will be scheduled and approved. Media interaction will be limited and supervised. The lawyer looks up again. And this clause here, he says, tapping the page, no disparagement from either party. Ever. That was her condition, Alexander says. The lawyer nods, making a note. Clause 12. In the event of public humiliation or reputational harm caused by this arrangement, the injured party may terminate early with full compensation intact. Elena looks up at that. You added that, she says softly. Alexander does not look at her. It is protection. For whom, she asks. For both of us, he replies. The lawyer clears his throat. One final detail. The compensation. He slides a separate document forward. $1 million, he says, transferred to an independent account upon completion of the wedding ceremony. Elena's breath catches again, even though she already knows the number. This money is yours regardless of public reaction, the lawyer adds. Unless you breach the agreement. Elena swallows. And if I change my mind before the ceremony, Alexander turns now, then the contract is void, and the deal dies with it. Silence settles between them. The lawyer closes the folder. I will step out, he says. Take your time. When the door closes, the room feels smaller. Alexander walks to the table and places a pen beside the contract. This is the last moment where everything can stop, he says. No consequences. No anger. Elena looks at the pages again. The language is cold. Precise. Every word designed to control chaos. This makes me look like a solution, she says quietly, not a person. Alexander does not deny it. That is what this is. She nods once. Then I want one more thing, she says. He raises an eyebrow. You already asked for changes. I want my name respected, Elena says. In public? In private? You will not introduce me as anything less than your wife. That is implied, he says. I want it explicit, she insists. Alexander considers her for a long moment. Then he takes the pen and writes, Clause 13, he says aloud. Mutual respect in all public and private settings. He slides the pen back to her. Elena stares at it. This pen is heavier than it should be. She signs. Her signature looks small on the page, but it is steady. Alexander signs next. The sound of ink on paper echoes in the quiet room. It is done. Later that afternoon, Elena stands alone in a guest room that is now labeled hers. A garment bag hangs from the closet door. Inside, a simple white dress, elegant, expensive, nothing like anything she has ever worn. Her phone buzzes with a new message from an unknown number. 7 days, it reads. We begin training tomorrow. She sits on the edge of the bed and exhales. This is no longer an idea. It is a contract, and contracts always come due. The next morning begins before sunrise. Elena is standing in the center of a marble foyer that feels more like a museum than a home. The floors shine beneath her feet. The air smells faintly of fresh flowers she did not choose. Everything around her seems designed to remind her that she does not belong here. A woman approaches her with a tablet in hand. Confident? Efficient? My name is Claire, she says. I handle public image and preparation for Mr. Wright's engagements. Starting today, I handle yours as well. Elena nods, unsure what to say. We do not have much time, Claire continues. 7 days is not generous. We will begin immediately. The hours blur together. Elena is measured for dresses that cost more than her annual salary. Stylists discuss colors and silhouettes as if she is not standing between them. Her hair is brushed, then brushed again, her posture corrected gently but constantly. Shoulders back, one of them says. You are not staff anymore. Those words land heavier than expected. She is shown how to walk beside Alexander without lagging behind, how to smile without showing too much, how to answer questions without revealing anything at all. Confidence does not mean speaking loudly, Claire explains. It means standing still when others want to move you. Elena practices in front of mirrors that stretch from floor to ceiling. Every reflection looks like a stranger. At noon, Alexander enters the room. He stops when he sees her. She is wearing a tailored dress in soft ivory. Simple, elegant. Her hair is pulled back, her face calm, in a way it was not before. You will attend a private luncheon with me today, he says. No press, just partners. Elena nods. What should I say? You do not need to impress them, he replies. Just do not disappear. The drive to the restaurant is quiet. Alexander reviews documents on his tablet while Elena watches the city pass by through the window. She counts familiar streets, places she used to walk without thinking. They feel far away now. Inside the restaurant, conversations pause when they enter. Eyes flicker toward Elena. Assessing. Curious. Alexander places a hand lightly at the small of her back. The touch is brief, professional, and somehow grounding. This is my wife, he says evenly. The word wife echoes in her ears. The lunch is a test. One man asks her where she studied. Another asks how she met Alexander. Elena answers carefully, honestly, without oversharing. We were introduced through work, she says. And we value privacy. There is a pause. Then nods. Approval. Alexander watches her from the corner of his eye. She does not fidget. She does not shrink. She listens more than she speaks. When a glass is spilled near the table, Elena instinctively reaches for a napkin, then stops herself. She remembers where she is. She sits back, hands folded, composed. Alexander notices. After lunch, as they step outside, he speaks quietly. You adapted quickly. She looks at him. I am used to watching people. That night, she returns to her room exhausted. She removes the jewelry carefully, setting each piece down as if it might break. In the bathroom mirror, she studies her face. The woman staring back looks calmer, stronger, but also farther away from herself. Her phone buzzes. A message from Claire. Tomorrow, gala rehearsal. She exhales and sits on the edge of the bed. Later, as she walks through the hallway to get water, she hears voices in the study. Alexander is on a call. The image works, someone says on the other end. She looks the part. Elena freezes. She is learning fast, Alexander replies. Faster than expected. She will hold up under pressure. There is a brief silence. Yes, Alexander says. She already is. Elena steps away before she can hear more. Back in her room, she closes the door quietly. For the first time, she realizes something unsettling. This role is no longer just a performance, and neither of them is playing it alone anymore. The gala is held on the 6th night. By the time Elena steps out of the car, the city skyline is glowing behind the venue lights, reflecting off glass and steel like a promise made to only a few. Cameras line the entrance. Voices overlap. Names are called. This is not a rehearsal. Alexander adjusts his cufflinks as they wait for the doors to open. He looks composed as always, but Elena notices the slight tension in his jaw. This is important, he says quietly. More than the luncheon. She nods. I know. He pauses, then adds, stay close to me. Inside the room hums with wealth and influence. Men and women in tailored suits and evening gowns move easily through the space, greeting one another with smiles that do not always reach their eyes. Elena feels them looking at her, some with curiosity, some with doubt. Alexander introduces her again and again. My wife. Each time she lifts her chin and meets their gaze. She answers politely, calmly. She does not rush. She does not apologize for taking up space. Then she sees her. Victoria Hale. Tall. Impeccably dressed. Confident in the way people are when they believe they cannot be challenged. She approaches with a smile that is sharp at the edges. Alexander, Victoria says warmly. It has been a long time. He nods. Victoria. Her eyes shift to Elena. They linger. And you must be the surprise, Victoria says. We did not hear about a wedding. Elena feels the shift immediately. Conversations nearby soften. People listen. We value privacy, Elena says evenly, but we are happy to be here. Victoria smiles wider. Of course. Forgive me. I was just curious. You seem very grounded. The word hangs between them. Tell me, Victoria continues, lifting her glass slightly, what line of work were you in before marrying Alexander? The question is not innocent. Elena feels the old instinct rise. To shrink. To deflect. To disappear. She does none of those things. I worked in hospitality, Elena says. I learned how to observe people, anticipate needs, and stay calm under pressure. Victoria tilts her head. That must have been quite a transition. It taught me a great deal, Elena replies, including how to treat people with respect. There is a brief silence. Someone nearby clears their throat. A few guests glance away. Victoria laughs softly. How admirable. Alexander watches Elena closely now. As the evening continues, the pressure increases. A board member questions Elena about investments. Another guest comments on her dress, noting its simplicity. Elena responds without defensiveness. She listens. She answers what she knows. She does not pretend to be something she is not. I am learning, she says once. And I am grateful for the chance to do so. The honesty disarms them. Later during the main address, a minor crisis unfolds. A donor becomes agitated when his seating is changed. Voices rise. Attention shifts. Before Alexander can step in, Elena does. She approaches the man calmly, her posture open. I am sorry for the confusion, she says. Let me help you. She listens. She acknowledges his frustration. She offers a solution without drawing attention. Within minutes, the tension dissolves. Applause resumes. Alexander watches from across the room, something unfamiliar settling in his chest. After the gala, as they step outside into the cool night air, Elena exhales deeply. That was a test, she says quietly. Yes, Alexander replies. And you passed. She looks at him. I did not do it for the deal. I know, he says. They stand there for a moment, the city humming around them. Inside the venue, whispers continue. Not about her past, about her presence. And for the first time since the contract was signed, Alexander realizes something has shifted. She is no longer just convincing others. She is convincing him too. The night does not end after the gala. Back at the penthouse, the city feels quieter, as if it has exhaled with them. Elena removes her heels near the door, careful, deliberate. Her feet ache in a way that reminds her she is still human beneath the dress and lights. Alexander loosens his tie and sets it aside. He does not speak at first. You handled that room better than most people I know, he says finally. Elena offers a small smile. I have handled worse rooms, just without chandeliers. The attempt at humor fades quickly. The silence that follows is different from before. It is not tense. It is heavy with things unsaid. They move into the kitchen. Alexander pours water into 2 glasses and hands one to her. Their fingers brush by accident. Neither of them pulls away immediately. Thank you, she says. He nods. They stand there close but not touching, the contract between them, suddenly loud in her thoughts. I need to be clear about something, Elena says, breaking the quiet. I am still aware of what this is. So am I, Alexander replies. This does not mean anything has changed, she continues. I am still here because of an agreement. He looks at her, then really looks at her. And yet he says slowly, you stepped in tonight without being asked. She meets his gaze. I did it because it was right. The words settle between them. Alexander turns away, resting his hands on the counter. When he speaks again, his voice is lower. I did not expect this to feel complicated, he admits. Elena studies his back. The rigid posture, the control that never quite leaves him. What did you expect, she asks. I expected efficiency, he says. Compliance. A role played well enough to convince others. He pauses. I did not expect to feel exposed. That surprises her. She steps closer, stopping a safe distance away. I feel exposed every day, she says quietly. I walk into rooms where people decide my worth before I speak. He turns to face her. I built this life to avoid vulnerability, Alexander says. Control was easier. And is it working, she asks. He does not answer. Instead, he gestures toward the hallway. You should rest. Tomorrow will be busy. Elena nods, though something in her chest tightens. Before she can turn away, he speaks again. Elena. She stops. You did not embarrass me tonight, he says. You strengthened my position. She considers this. I am not here to be a shield, she says. I know, he replies. That is what concerns me. Later that night, Elena lies awake in the guest room that no longer feels temporary. The ceiling is unfamiliar, the silence too complete. Her phone buzzes with a message from Claire confirming the next day's schedule. She sets it aside without replying. Her thoughts drift to the moment in the kitchen, to the way Alexander's voice changed when he spoke about control, to the realization that he is not as untouched as he appears. Across the penthouse, Alexander sits alone in his study. The contract lies open on the desk. He does not read it. He stares at Elena's signature. It looks steady, honest. He thinks of the way she held herself at the gala, of the way she spoke without fear or pretense, of the way the room responded to her. For the first time since the deadline was set, the deal feels secondary. He closes the folder. 7 days ago, he believed marriage was a transaction. Tonight, he understands the danger. Because contracts can be broken, but feelings do not follow clauses. The fallout begins the next morning. Elena learns about it the same way the rest of the world does. Her phone vibrates again and again as notifications stack across the screen. Headlines, messages, missed calls from numbers she does not recognize. She sits on the edge of the bed, still in sleep clothes, reading the words that feel unreal even as they burn into her memory. Billionaire's marriage exposed as strategic contract. Sources claim Wright's wife was former staff. Elena Wright, a maid turned market move, her chest tightens. The article is detailed. Too detailed. Dates, clauses, quotes taken out of context. A copy of the contract is referenced, blurred but recognizable. Someone wanted this out. By the time Elena reaches the main living area, the penthouse is already in motion. Claire stands near the window phone, pressed to her ear, face pale. It is everywhere, Claire says when she hangs up. We are trying to contain it, but this is not a leak. This is an attack. Alexander enters moments later, composed on the surface, fury controlled beneath it. Who did this? Elena asks. Alexander does not answer right away. The board meeting has been moved up, he says. They want an explanation. An explanation of what she asks, though she already knows. Of you, he says. The word lands like a slap, unintended but sharp. They arrive at the corporate offices, to a wall of cameras. Reporters shout questions. Elena keeps her head high, but each step feels heavier than the last. Inside the boardroom, the air is cold. Victoria Hale is already seated. She smiles when Elena enters. Alexander, Victoria says smoothly, this is unfortunate timing. He takes his seat at the head of the table. Elena stands beside him, not invited to sit. This marriage was misrepresented, one board member says. We were led to believe it was genuine. It is legal, Alexander replies. And it meets the requirements you set. Victoria leans forward. Legal is not the same as credible. She turns to Elena. Tell us, she says, voice sweet. Did you marry Alexander out of love? Every eye turns to Elena. She feels the familiar urge to disappear. Instead, she speaks. I married him under an agreement, she says clearly. I was honest about that from the beginning. A murmur moves through the room, and before that, Victoria presses. You worked for him. As staff. Yes, Elena says. And I did my job well. Victoria smiles. So you were paid to clean his home. And now you are paid to play his wife. The room is silent. Elena looks at Alexander. This is the moment. He could end it. He could stand up, say it was his decision, take responsibility, draw the line. Instead, he hesitates. Enough, Alexander says finally. This arrangement was my responsibility. But it is too late. The damage is done. After the meeting, Elena walks ahead of him down the hallway. Her steps are fast controlled. Did you know this would happen, she asks, once they are alone. No, he says, but I should have anticipated it. You should have defended me, she says. I did, he replies. She turns to him. You defended the deal. He does not deny it. The silence between them is sharper than any argument. Back at the penthouse, Elena walks to the study and opens the drawer where the contract is kept. She pulls out her copy and lays it on the desk. This was always temporary, she says. I knew that, but I believed you would not let them turn me into a weapon. Alexander looks at the paper, then at her. I am trying to fix this, he says. You are trying to save the deal, she answers. She picks up the contract and tears it cleanly down the center. The sound is soft, final. I am done, Elena says. I will not be your shield, or your excuse. She turns and walks away before he can stop her. That night, the headlines change. Not because the truth is corrected, but because Elena Wright has disappeared from Alexander Wright's life. And for the first time since the ultimatum was issued, Alexander realizes the cost of waiting too long. He did not lose the deal today. He lost her. Alexander does not sleep that night. The penthouse feels empty in a way it never has before. Not quiet, empty. The kind of silence that presses against the chest and demands an answer. At dawn, his phone begins to ring. The board, investors, advisors. The message is the same from all of them. The deal is unstable. Trust is shaken. Public perception is turning. If he does not act, the signature will be pulled. Alexander listens. Then he ends the calls, one by one. He stands in the study staring at the torn remains of the contract Elena left behind. Two halves. Cleanly separated. Nothing left to argue with. For the first time in his career, the math is simple. He can save the deal, or he can choose her. By mid-morning, the city is buzzing again. Reporters gather outside Wright Enterprises expecting a damage control statement. The board schedules an emergency press conference, hoping Alexander will offer reassurance. They expect strategy. They expect spin. They do not expect him to walk in alone. Alexander steps up to the podium without notes. Cameras flash. The room quiets. I will make this brief, he says. The board members exchange uneasy glances behind him. The reports circulating about my marriage are accurate in one respect, Alexander continues. It began as an agreement, a contract designed to meet conditions that should never have existed. A murmur ripples through the room. But what those reports failed to understand, he says, voice steady, is that the contract no longer exists. The murmurs grow louder. Alexander lifts a document. This is the agreement that governed my marriage, he says. As of this morning, it has been formally terminated by me. The board reacts immediately. You cannot do this, one member hisses. Alexander does not turn. I can, he says, and I have. A reporter calls out. What about the deal, mister? Wright Alexander meets the cameras head on. If the success of this company depends on deception, he says, then it is not success worth having. The room falls silent. My wife, he continues, the word deliberate was never a strategy. She was a person. One who acted with integrity when many in this room did not. The board chair stands abruptly. This is reckless. Alexander turns to face him. No, he says calmly. This is accountability. Within hours, the fallout is immediate. The deal is suspended. Stock prices dip. Headlines shift. Billionaire destroys deal to defend wife. Alexander does not watch the coverage. He is already on his way across the city. Elena is packing when the knock comes. She freezes one hand, gripping the edge of the suitcase. When she opens the door, Alexander stands there, not in a suit but in a simple coat, hair unstyled, eyes unguarded. I ended it, he says before she can speak. She blinks. Ended what? The deal, he says. The contract. All of it. She studies his face, searching for calculation. I chose you, he says. Not because I was forced, not because it was convenient, but because losing you made everything else meaningless. Elena exhales slowly. You should not have come. I should have come sooner, he replies. There is a long silence. You humiliated me, she says finally. By waiting? I know, he says, and I am not asking you to forget that. He steps back slightly, giving her space. I am asking you for the chance to choose, he says. Freely, without contracts, without deadlines. Elena looks at the suitcase. At the door, At the man who once saw her as invisible. And if I say no, she asks. Then I will accept it, Alexander says. And I will live with it. She holds his gaze. For the first time, there is no power imbalance, no leverage, no agreement to hide behind. Only truth. Elena closes the suitcase. She does not invite him in, but she does not close the door either. And that is enough to change everything. The city moves on faster than anyone expects. A week after the press conference, the headlines quiet. The deal Alexander walked away from is picked up by another firm. Analysts debate his decision. Some call it reckless, others call it principled. Alexander does not comment. He spends his days rebuilding quietly. Smaller meetings, fewer cameras, work that feels honest again. Elena takes a job at a community center across town. Not because she needs the money, but because she needs ground beneath her feet. Something real. She rents a small apartment near the river, fills it with light, with plants she waters herself. They do not rush back to each other. They talk. At first, it is coffee in public places, conversations without contracts or witnesses. Alexander listens more than he speaks. Elena watches to see if his actions match his words. They argue sometimes. About power. About silence. About the night he waited too long. He does not defend himself. I was wrong, he says once, and I will spend the rest of my life proving I can do better. She does not forgive him all at once. But she does not walk away either. Months later, on an ordinary evening, Alexander meets Elena by the river. The city lights ripple across the water. There is no crowd, no announcement. He does not kneel. He simply takes her hand. When I asked you to marry me the first time, he says, it was because I was afraid to lose everything I had built. She meets his eyes. Now he continues, I am asking because I am afraid to build a life without you. There is no ring yet. No pressure. Say no if you need to, he adds. I will still be here. Elena exhales a soft laugh breaking through. You finally learned, she says. She squeezes his hand. Yes, she says. I choose you. The wedding is small. No board members, no reporters, no conditions. Just close friends, quiet music, and vows spoken without witnesses who expect anything in return. When Elena walks toward Alexander, there is no contract waiting on the table, no deadline ticking in the background, only choice. Later, as the night settles and the guests drift away, Alexander finds the old contract one last time. He had kept the torn pieces not out of nostalgia but as a reminder. He takes them outside and lights a match. The paper curls and disappears, ash carried away by the wind. Elena watches from the doorway. That chapter is over, she says. Yes, he replies. And it is not coming back. They stand together, the city humming softly around them. What began as an arrangement ended as a promise. Not because it was required, but because in the end, love was the only thing neither of them was willing to negotiate.